Hi, this is Ed Crowe. Today I'm going to talk about the special election period for discontinued Medicare Advantage plans or plans that were non-renewed. So this is basically for last year for January. There were a number of plans throughout the country that didn't renew. They had a lot of members in them, and so agents had a lot of work to do is because they had a lot of clients that were in plans that weren't going to continue on January 1st. So we'll talk about that special election today. So the election for term plans. Mix that in with a reminder about the OEP election, because we get a lot of agents thinking in certain situations they can use the OEP election to remedy this problem, and you can't. As always, all our webinars are recorded and put on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Crowe Medicare. So as I mentioned before, we had an unprecedented year of plans that were discontinued, whatever term you want to use, non-renewed as of January 1st, 2025. There were a lot of reasons for this, but if you're an insurance agent and you had a relatively big book, I'm sure you dealt with this year. Some of those reasons were the perceived loss of revenue the carriers were going to have as a result of the 2025 Medicare final rule. So 2025 Medicare final rule had a lot of new rules, new things that were perceived as detrimental for the carriers. Ironically, it turns out that none of that's going to happen. There was a stay put on the final rule for 2025, and I think they've just given up on it completely at this point and have already released the 2026 final rule. But nonetheless, when they saw that, I think they anticipated it, so you had a lot of companies not continuing the plan for 2025. The $2,000 drug cap obviously played a huge part as well. That shifts a great deal of cost to the carriers, and I think because of that, they made some financial decisions not to renew a lot of plans. Regardless, whatever the reasons were, there was a lot of plans that were canceled. So the cancellation or the discontinued MA election, the SEP for that, runs from December 8th of 2024 through the last day of February of 2025. You can use this election to enroll somebody in a plan for either a February 1 effective date if you use the election in January, or if you use the election in the month of February, that's for a March 1 effective. And it's still obviously, so at this point, it still can be used in something that you should be using. The reason you want to use that is because the OEP election runs through March, but that isn't useful for people that had a plan that didn't renew. OEP allows you to change from one Advantage plan to another, but it doesn't allow someone to add an Advantage plan that doesn't have one currently. So if you had clients, they had discontinued plans in January and maybe they didn't get back to you or you didn't reach out to them, they never did anything, their plan was canceled in January, the OEP is not going to help them because you can't switch them to another Advantage plan when they don't have one currently for the month of January. But using the discontinued plan special election, you can give them a plan. So that SEP runs through the end of February, so you can give them a new plan for February 1st if you do it this month, or you can give them a new plan for March 1 if you do it next month. What makes this all the more difficult is the fact that the FEMA disaster emergency SEP election is no longer available as of April 1, so you won't have that any longer. So if you had those people that call you down the road saying, hey, my plan is discontinued, I never enrolled in another one, you won't have that election available for them. And then the quarterly SEP for existing duals, partial duals, and drug help people is no longer available as of January 1st, 2025. So if you missed that, that's a big change. CMS removed or eliminated rather that quarterly SEP for the first 3 quarters of the year. That is gone. You can no longer use that any longer. So any member that lost their MA plan as of January 1, they need to be moved to a new plan using an SEP, using the SEP for plan termination or discontinuance. It's really only one of the viable ways to get them back on the Advantage plan if they want to be on one. Quick topic, just wanted to bring it up. I think people a lot of times forget about that election, and I'm sure you will still run into, as late in the month of January as it is, I'm still sure you'll still run into people who had a non-renewed plan and didn't do anything yet. So hopefully if you get those calls or talk to those people, you can use that election and get some business. Appreciate you watching today. As always, the webinar is recorded. You can go on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Crowe Medicare. We have hundreds of videos on there. And thank you for joining us today.